Hello, my dear students. Today we'll discuss about what are the different methods of irrigation. The first method is surface irrigation, and second one is subsurface irrigation, and third one is sprinkler irrigation, and the fourth one is drip irrigation. Again, surface irrigation is classified into different types: flooding method, furrow method, and contour forming. Again, flooding, there are two types: wild flooding and controlled flooding. And again, control flooding, there are different types: free flooding, contour laterals, border strips, check flooding, basin flooding, zigzag method. Okay, let us see first what is surface irrigation, subsurface irrigation, and sprinkler irrigation and drip irrigation. So surface irrigation, it is just like flooding water. About 90% of the irrigated areas in the world are by this method. Okay, this is the most commonly used method of irrigation. In subsurface irrigation, here the flooding water underground and allowing it to come up by capillary to the crop roots. Okay, here as the name itself indicates, it is subsurface irrigation, means underground irrigation system. Here mainly by capillary force, the water is supplied or applied to the crop roots. Then sprinkler irrigation system, here applying water under pressure. Okay, about 5% of the irrigated areas are by this method. And the last one is drip, or it is also called as trickle irrigation. Here applying water slowly to the soil at the same rate with the crop consumption. Okay, here the water is applied very slowly. So first let us discuss what is surface irrigation in detail. In surface irrigation system, water moves over and across the land by simple gravity flow in order to wet it and to infiltrate into the soil. Okay, here the water moves over and across the land by simple gravitational force. Okay, and it wets the soil and infiltrate into the soil. Here the water is applied to the field in either the controlled or uncontrolled manner. There are two types of application of water to the field. The first one is controlled. Here the water is applied from the head ditch and guided by corrugations, furrows, borders or ridges. Okay, so there are some controlled devices are used here for the application of water to the crops or fields. In uncontrolled system, that is wild flooding. Here there is no control system. There is no furrows, borders, ridges, nothing. Just the water is allowed to flood. Okay, and surface irrigation is entirely practiced where the water is abundant. Okay, where there is availability of water is full, means there is easy water has to be available very easily and abundantly. Then only this method can be used. And here the low initial cost of development, later offset by high labor cost of applying the water. Okay, low initial cost of development, later offset, but there will be a high labor cost of applying the water. And there are some problems in the system, that is deep percolation, runoff and drainage problems can be arised by using this method. Next, we'll see there are different types of irrigation under under surface irrigation. So mainly it is categorized under three heads, that is furrow irrigation, border irrigation and basin irrigation. Let us see first what is furrow irrigation. Furrow irrigation, here the water poured on the field is directed to flow through narrow channels dug between the rows of crops. You can see here the water is directed through the channels. Okay, narrow channels. Here you can see here, and you can see here in all these figures there are the narrow channels. It is dug between the rows of the crops. Here instead of distributing the water throughout the whole field evenly, these narrow channels are dug out. And these furrows must all have equal dimensions. This you have to note down. Means these furrows, it has to be made of equal dimensions in order to guarantee that the water is distributed evenly. Then like flood irrigation, furrow irrigation rather cheap in areas where water is inexpensive. Means water should be available abundantly, then only this method can be used. In furrow irrigation, only a part of the land surface is wetted, thus minimizing the evaporation loss. This is one advantage of furrow irrigation. Furrow irrigation is adapted for row crops like corn, banana, tobacco and cabbage, and it is good for grains. And here irrigation can be done by using small irrigation streams. Furrow irrigation is adapted for irrigating on various slopes except on steep ones because of erosion and bank overflow. This is about furrow irrigation. Next we'll see what is border irrigation system. Here in this system, controlled surface flooding is practiced where the field is divided into strips by parallel ridges or dikes, and each strip is irrigated separately by introducing water upstream, and it progressively covers the entire strip. Border irrigation is suited for crops that can withstand flooding for a short time, for example wheat, and it is suitable to the soils between extremely high and very low infiltration rates. And in border irrigation, water is applied slowly, and ideally here there is no problem of runoff or deep percolation as like a furrow irrigation method. You can see here these are the strips are done and water is allowed here. You can see here these are the strips, and see the water is applied to the crops in this method, in this way. Okay, these are the examples for border irrigation system. So these are the borders. The water is here. So the next one is the basin irrigation system. In basin irrigation, water is flooded in wider areas. It is ideal for irrigating rice. The area is normally flat. In basin irrigation, a very high stream size is introduced into the basin so that rapid movement of water is obtained. And here water does not infiltrate a lot initially. You can see here. This is about the basin irrigation method. Usually, round basins are made for small trees and square basin for large trees. Then these basins allow more water to be impounded as the root zones of orchard plants are usually very deep. Each basin is flooded and water is allowed to infiltrate into the soil. Based on the type of the crop and soil, nearly 5 to 10 centimeter depth of water may be needed for every irrigation. You can see here the water, depth of the water, nearly 5 to 10 centimeter. The advantage of basin method is that unskilled labor can be used as there is no risk of erosion. Here there is no risk of erosion, so unskilled laborers can be used. And one disadvantage is there is a difficulty in using modern machinery, and it is also labor intensive. Okay, so this is about basin irrigation method. Then we'll see what are the other different types of surface irrigation method. While flooding method. In this method, this is the earliest and the primitive method of application of water to the land. In this method, the water is applied by spreading it over the land prior to the application of water. No land preparation is done in the form of border or field ditches, and water is allowed to flow the natural slope of the land. Okay, this is about wild flooding method. Then controlled flooding. In this method, irrigation water is applied by spreading it over the land to be irrigated with proper control on the flow of water as well as the quantity of water applied. All the methods of controlled flooding require prior preparation of the land. Here the prior preparation of the land is required, and the land is properly graded, and agricultural fields are divided into small units by levies. Free flooding. Free flooding consists of dividing the entire land to be irrigated into small strips by a number of field channels or levees known as laterals. Okay, you can see here. These laterals may be either at right angles to the sides of the field or at right angles to the contour lines. Contour laterals. This is a special case of free flooding in which the field channels or laterals are aligned approximately along the contour lines. In this method, irrigation is possible only on side of the laterals. You can see here contours and laterals. Next, check flooding. In check flooding, the crop area is divided into some plots which are relatively leveled by checks or bunds. Water from field channels is allowed to enter to each plot or a check basin, and the plots are flooded to the required depth. Zigzag method. In this method, the agricultural area is subdivided into small plots by low bunds in a zigzag manner. You can see here, zigzag manner. Okay. The water is supplied to the plots from the field channel through the openings. The water flows in a zigzag way to cover the entire area. When the desired depth is attained, the openings are closed. Contour forming. Contour forming is practiced in hilly areas with the slopes and with the falling contour. The land is divided into series of horizontal steps called terraces. Small bunds are constructed at the end of each terrace to hold water up to the equal height. Okay, this is about surface irrigation. Next, we'll see what is subsurface method. Here, in this method, water is supplied directly to root zone of the plants by a system of underground pipes. Okay, laid below the land with their joints open. Water running through these pipes comes out through the open joints and keeps the root zone moist. Okay, this is about subsurface method. In this method, loss of water due to absorption and evaporation is less, but as it is expensive and gives less yield of crops, it is quite uncommon. Okay, you can see here, this is about subsurface method. Underground pipes are laid below the land. Okay, and that joints are kept open, so the water running through these pipes come out through the open joints and keeps the root zone moist. That is the method. And next one is okay, this is suitable for crops, irrigation to the crops by applying water from beneath the soil surface, either by constructing trenches or installing the underground perforated pipelines. And in this system, water is discharged into trenches and allowed to stand during the whole period of irrigation for lateral and upward movement of water by capillary to wet the soil between the trenches. This is about surface irrigation method, and here this is more suitable the crops, particularly with the shallow root systems like wheat, potato, beet, peas and fodder crops, etc. The advantage of this system is maintenance of soil water at favorable tension. Loss of water by evaporation is held at minimum, and it can be used for soils with the low water holding capacity and high infiltration rate, where surface irrigation methods cannot be adopted and sprinkler irrigation is expensive. So this is about subsurface irrigation method. In the next video, we'll discuss about the sprinkler irrigation and drip irrigation method. Thank you.